Hello and welcome to Journeys and Journals. I get to meet the most fascinating people who live here in the state of Jefferson, God's country, I call it. Well, we're here between the rivers. Oh, it's so beautiful, and the hills. Today, as we're filming, it's a beautiful blue sky day. And lucky me, I met a new friend that said, I want to make this home. I want to call this home. So won't you meet? Here he is. Your name, sir, is?
Spencer Ewert.
Spencer, where do you come from?
Well, I came from the California area, and
I think most of us here at one time or another came from
Yes.
California.
Yes, I was raised in Sacramento, and I left there for a number of years and came back and ended up working at Weimar Institute,
Well, now,
north of, actually east of Auburn.
what was your job there at Weimar Institute?
Well, I was the work education director there, and what my job was to provide jobs for the students on campus, and we had both college and academy, which was high school, and my job was to make sure that every student had a job on campus.
Why would you want every student to work? I know the answer.
Well, it's part of education, and we felt strongly on the campus that work was a very positive influence on the children, on the kids, on the students, and we wanted to give them the opportunity to not only grow in the area of academics, but also to learn the ethics and the just the joy of work, and to get some of the satisfaction that comes from work.
You know,
and provide help for the campus also.
And they earned money, which helped with their education.
Yes.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
They had a masseuse there, young people who were learning the art of massage. Ooh, that was fun, because they, really, really were diligent in their work. Now, I had jobs when I was a kid. They weren't nearly so glamorous as what you've just described. My dad had this car lot here called Robert C. Martin, your friendly Studebaker dealer in Grants Pass, Oregon. Well, I love this truck. He had us cleaning the restrooms. That's where I learned. Now, my brother, on the other hand, he got to wash cars. And I don't know if we were 12 or thereabouts when we started getting a paycheck. But, when did you first start work?
I started when I was 9 years old.
Doing what?
My father was mustered out of the Air Force in about 1946, and he didn't know what to do with his life. He didn't have any other training besides flying airplanes. So he decided he started construction work for a while and decided he didn't like that, and then finally went to the idea of opening a print shop. So he started a small print shop in the Sacramento area in Carmichael. And so I went to work for him at 9 years old, sweeping floors, and finally I started working the presses. So
thank goodness Dad's gonna kind of move us up from sweeping floors and doing car washes.
Yes,
Now, has that always been an interest of yours then, printing?
Well, I was in printing right up through the last 4 or 5 years.
And what's brought you to Better Life Television?
Well, that's interesting, because I was up here going to church, and I noticed that in the church they had television cameras, and I thought, it would be wonderful to just take a tour. And I saw the television station next door to the church, and so I asked around, and they said, yes, we can take you on a tour. So I came over, and Ron and Marta Davis were kind enough to show me around, and I said, by the way, would you be interested in volunteer work here? And I said, and they said, well, yeah, as a matter of fact, we are looking for someone.
Are you telling me you're getting paid the same as I do?
Well, I'm a volunteer. I do not
Okay.
get paid, yes. But
We get, every time they add another zero to my unpaid check, so I'm still getting zero.
Exactly.
And so many of the people, well, there's 1, 2, 3 camera persons today. 2 are women, and then there's Bill, who's been so faithful. You know, Bill's a youngster. I don't think he's quite 90 years old, but
Is that
boy,
right?
I'll tell you, he can sure run circles. Do you still have that garden, Bill? He is incredible. And his wife, Bill's wife, if you've not met her yet, she doesn't see well, so she'll get real close to meet you. But she's still riding her bike, and she's only 92, I think. Incredible people that it just seems, you may have heard that the lifestyle that you're talking about, people live longer.
They do live longer.
And hopefully happier lives. Now, I want to know about you. When you were a little kid in the military, did Dad take you all around the country, or was he?
Well, he he was stationed in Korea and Japan, but my mom decided she didn't want to travel with him. She was, I don't know what her concerns were, but we had a home in the area, and so Dad went off to war, and we stayed home and took care of Mom, my brother and myself, and my 2 sisters.
And now, how old were you kids?
Well, let's see, I was
can just see it.
probably about 10 years old, maybe 11 years old at the time.
But Dad said, now you take care of your mom.
Yes,
I can almost hear him.
Of course, during the Second World War, my mom and Dad were stationed in Tucson, Arizona. So we were down there. And but you know, we got a chance to go onto the Air Force base in different areas we were in. And, you know, it was an interesting life. It really was.
Well, I understand some people call them military brats, but
Well, I think we were somewhat.
You weren't there that long. Now your dad was in Korea.
Yes.
That was and he was piloting?
Well, at that time, he'd gotten out of the Second World War. He'd stopped flying airplanes, and they wanted him. He was a reservist. He decided he wanted to go to. They called him up actually to go to Korea, and he was in the intelligence end of that war, so he was stationed over there in Japan.
Now, is he still living, your dad?
Yes, he is, as a matter of fact.
Well, when he comes to Grants Pass or wherever you're living, I don't know, you be sure to have him look up Henry Martin and start talking some Korean to him.
I'll do that.
Because right here, when they challenged him into the military, he said, well, language would probably be his first choice, and he spoke Spanish, and a little. He spoke, because he'd been in Mexico going to college when they drafted him. He spoke a little bit of German. He understood a little French. And so he put these all down at the list, I think a list of 20, and the bottom was Korean. And you know what? They invited him to go take Korean language. And then came home and taught us a little bit about 감사합니다. The only Korean word I know is thank you. And bulgogi, oh my, the hottest cabbage one ever ate is Korean kimchi.
Kimchi, yes.
And then, oh my, some of those other things are so, it's a different flavor. And we came to my brother came back thinking that sleeping on tatami mats was the way to go. Did your dad bring back souvenirs for you?
Oh, he brought back all kinds of things. You know, he had a lot of the beautiful, I don't know if they was painting or something on these beautiful mats, and he brought a lot of those home. He brought bicycles home for us kids from Japan. That was really interesting because they were a little different back in those days. You know, beautiful china ware, I guess it's Japanese ware, but beautiful ceramic type dishes and so on. So it was just, you know, he just brought back a lot of things, and we just really enjoyed it.
Well, my husband Doug brought back suits from Korea.
Suits, yes.
Or Japan maybe, when he got the tailored suits. The next summer he worked for the Forest Service here in northern, up out of Eugene or Roseburg, up in that area, north of there, and he ate so much fire camp food, never could wear those suits. Oh, what I remember, he was so proud of that cashmere one, and he couldn't no more. And they were so inexpensive. They'd measure you, and then the next day they'd bring them to your ship.
Wow.
I think it was just a matter of overnight they had these gorgeous things made.
That is incredible.
I've got to talk about him. He said, "Don't talk about my boots. I've got on my hiking boots."
Oh,
what's the story?
Bernie, I don't know if you want to show me.
Well, everybody believes that hiking boots should be sturdy.
Well, I have worn these for at least 3 years off and on. I do a lot of hiking, and you know, especially at Weimar. There's about 400 acres of land there, and many, many more miles of trails. So I'd walk 3 or 4 miles a day. So these have taken me many, many miles.
Oh, sure. Come on. Let's show them. They look
They're
like
kind of worn out, aren't they?
real serious boots. This whole idea of walk, 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 that's what they say the Weimar bird says.
Yes.
But the reason is it's about the cheapest health program you can go on. Is that right?
Well, I'll tell you, you know, you can't get a better education when it comes to good health than you could get there. And I've seen so many miracles happen as a result of the diet that they eat there, and also they really encourage walking. You know, that's part of the cure. That's part of the help that you need.
And every place you go, there's fresh, clean water to drink.
Yes, absolutely.
I'd say the 2 best things you can do for yourself is drink plenty of water, and walk every day.
Yes.
You know, you don't have to. When I had the cancer diagnosis and I was feeling kind of feeble, I never ever felt that I couldn't walk.
Mm-hmm.
But someone said, even if you walk half a block and back again, and I need to remind myself now that I'm feeling so great, walk, walk, walk.
Walk, exactly.
Can't you just see that Weimar bird talking? Walk, walk.
Yes.
Besides walking, you've got other hobbies.
Well, I do have other hobbies. I love to camp, and I love to fish. And those are 2 of my main hobbies. And of course, when I was younger, I used to love to water ski, and I'm getting a little too old for that now. But I love that, so I love boats, and since my father flew airplanes, I really enjoy aircraft, and I didn't get a chance to learn how to fly, but I still enjoy it very much.
Well, we've got a couple of great airports. The Merlin Airport has just expanded to accept jets, because some people are commuting by jet.
Yes.
Little planes, and then Medford is expanding all the time to really be a significant. What I know that people fly into over on the coast, but so many of them still drive to Medford and fly out of there.
Mm-hmm.
These mountains aren't real friendly. There's a lot of them. I want to know about your education. Did you take an interest in any particular thing? Or, I mean, printing wasn't a major, was it?
Well, it was a major for me, yes. You know, I have 7 children.
Uh-oh.
And so, my wife and I started having children when I was fairly young yet. I was in my early 20s. And so as a result of that, I didn't get a chance to really get the education that I really wanted to get. I had planned to be an aeronautical engineer. That was my plan, or to be an airline pilot. But when the children started coming along, I had to provide food and housing and so on, so that was what I did. And so as a result of my starting at 9 years old in my father's shop, I graduated from there to very large presses, 3-story presses. And I was foreman on those presses for many years. So, you know, I have quite a background in printing.
Well, I invite you to the Medford Mail Tribune. That is really something, and of course, the Coos County has a paper. We have written little articles about Better Life Television in this particular show. When it's someone from the area, we write to Roseburg and say, you know, put a little tune into Journeys and Journals on KBLN on Tuesday or Thursday, because we do one evening show, and 8:30 to 9 might be a little late, so they can catch it on the noon show on Thursday. We have had such fascinating people who call in and say, hey, I've got a story to tell. And sometimes I just draft them and say, will you come and tell your story? Recently, there was a public broadcasting brought a trailer and videoed stories right here in Medford. And I made an appointment to go there and be interviewed. I wanted to see how it was done, see what it was like. And in the midst of everything, I had 1 week off on my calendar. And I called them to confirm it, and they said, oh, you were scheduled last week, so it was a no-show. They're putting together like a quilt, but stories of people and their pioneer stories. So it will be an archive for history. So soon, Grandpa's story, Dad's story about the war. Have you thought to do any taping of your dad's war stories?
You know, I would really love to do that because he has quite a background. He flew so many different aircraft during the Second World War. In fact, he trained pilots down in Tucson, and so he's got quite a lot of history there. And you know, I would love to interview him again and just get some of the background and again some of the stories that he was able to tell. And unfortunately, he's getting so old now that he's he doesn't have quite the mental capacity that he used to have. But you know, I'm fascinated by the history of it. And you know, he flew anything from B-17s to trainers, T-86s, I think they were, and B-25s. And he used to fly over our house and feather the props and dip the wings, and he, you know, to get our attention. So yeah, hi kids. So, you know, when you look back with that kind of history, and you know, it's amazing the qualifications that had to go along with that, and the hard work that it took to get him there, and the many dangers that he fell into. Training pilots was a dangerous job.
I'll bet it was.
He almost lost his life a couple of times doing that. So.
Well, there's a funny story about the pilots here in Little Plains decided to bait one another, and I can do this, can you do that? And they kind of got in trouble for flying under Caveman Bridge.
Oh, yes, yes.
But I don't, you know, our airport here was right at the end of town, right against a mountain. So it was a real challenge. Now, Medford Airport, and I have some beautiful pictures of way back when, it was just, you know, prop planes doing little landings and takeoffs. It was nothing like today. And Klamath, of course, has a wonderful history of military. And there where you would have a military base, you'd have a good landing field, and you'd be equipped. Well, what about these 7 kids? Do you have a little brag book you'd like to tell me about them?
I do. As a matter of fact, I love my children, of course, and they, for the most part, most of them live in Colorado and out of Denver. and they're very successful, most of them, if not all of them. And they range from 46 years old down to 17. My youngest is 17 years old.
Okay.
And
But I'll
she's
bet you're a
living-
grandpa.
I am, yes. I'm a grandfather of 12 grandkids.
Ooh,
So,
Christmas around
yes.
his place must be wild.
Yeah. So unfortunately, I'm going to have my daughter here in the Grants Pass area for Thanksgiving, one of my daughters. So I'm looking forward to that.
Is she one of the Colorado kids?
She's one of the Colorado kids, yes.
Oh, I've just made a...
So, and they're, for the most part, they're all Christians and, just wonderful kids.
Well,
So,
I love to hear that. We train up our kids as best we can, and we hope they'll forgive our mistakes and recognize that they didn't have perfect parents, but we didn't have perfect kids either.
No, there's no necessarily a training manual for parenthood. And of course, the Bible has a lot to say about that. But we do make mistakes as mothers and fathers, and hopefully the kids will turn out.
They'll forgive us.
Yes,
hopefully
forgive us.
They'll forgive us. Now, you mentioned about the fact that the printing. Did any of them go into printing?
Not one of them.
Oh.
Not even one. No. I was kind of hoping my son might be willing to do that, but he had other ideas.
Did they go into pilot? Did they become pilots?
No pilots. No.
Oh, the shoes of Dad and Grandpa were kind of big.
Happen. Huh? But my son is very mechanical. He does a lot of work with robotics and
robotics.
Robotics, yes.
Well, now would Grandpa ever have dreamt that there'd be a machine? Well, they can thread needles, can't they?
Oh, sure.
A robot could
it's
do
amazing
just
what they can do with robotics, with robots now, and so he enjoys doing that. But he's also into virtually anything that's mechanical. He can fix any kind of an engine. He does body work.
Speaking of body work, I found some old pictures here, and it shows a wrecked Kaiser Frazer. Would you folks remember those? And at that time, when Martin Studebaker, they would repair a wrecked car. They wouldn't get a replacement part. And they didn't use body putty, I don't think. And they'd take it off. And this is the unbelievable picture that I can remember when I mentioned it to my brother. He said, oh, and they painted it gray. It was this color when it started, and then they painted it this color. And I had to laugh because you don't think kids are picking up so much, but we do. Our kids absorb so much.
Oh, they do.
Now,
they certainly do.
Is gardening part of your world?
I like gardening. I really do. Yes, and I like any kind of gardening. So whether it's mowing the lawn or whether it's tending the flowers, whatever, or pruning the trees, I do like that a lot.
Well,
Yes.
and growing the great big pumpkins. They have this wonderful program for it's called Robin, what did you just take? It's a gardening, excellence of gardening. And she got to grow pumpkins, the biggest ones I'd ever seen grown in a real garden. I've seen them at county fairs, but and the one had such personality. Please take that to your master gardener. I remembered the name of the program, and she took it to her graduation from this. That's, things are available, classes to take and learn. I don't know. I've taken a reading class out at the college because after my stroke, I really didn't read at all. Not a letter, not my own. I could write my name, but boy, you'd ask me which letter was which, I couldn't read it. And those classes were available for free as a rehabilitation Oh, now you have any interest in going back to school now that you have a chance?
Well, I do, and I had a chance to take some classes at Weimar, which was a wonderful thing, and it was, yes, I definitely have an interest in going back to school.
Well,
I have a couple of years of college, but I don't have a degree.
Oh.
So, even at my age, there's always something you can learn, and I would welcome that opportunity if I had it. I really would.
Absolutely. And Rogue Community College just keeps opening new campuses. They have one out at White City now, I understand, and one Medford and Grants Pass. And then my husband went to Saukey as it was called then, but Southern Oregon College. When you get past junior college, that's the place to go. And the history there is so rich. Have you been to Lithia Park? That's something you have to look.
I have not. I don't know what that is.
There's a fountain over in Ashland, and the water comes out, and it's supposed to be very good for you. And I'm not sure. If there's people who can rave about the healing qualities of it, it tastes like Alka-Seltzer, only more so. And the fountain turns a discolored, but the park is so beautiful. And I just encourage you to check it out. It's acres and acres. When we were young, they had animals there. It was a little mini zoo. I want to welcome you right back again.
Thank you so much,
and
Bernie.
and
Thank
say,
you.
We're going to look for you behind the cameras next time.
Well, I'm looking forward to that too. Anything I can do here to volunteer my services, I'd like to do that. So
Well, this
I
is
really
the
enjoy it
place.
so far.
I think we have 50 or 60 volunteers that put these programs, the whole thing together, whether they're cooking like Marcella or whether they're or like Robin. Thanks so much for tuning into Journeys and Journals, and I'm Bernie Martin Beck saying bye for now. We'll see you behind the camera.
Thank you, Bernie.